Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I don't even know how to say it anymore. It's not, my voice is not going up when I say that. Today, FedNow launched at 10 a.m. my time. I think that puts it like 11 a.m. Eastern. I don't know what's going on, guys. Johnny's here to tell us all about it. So grab your friends, grab your family, tell them to listen up, like and share this video, subscribe if you're not, and let's see what's going on with Choke Point 2.0 and the attack on American small business right after this. Hey, Johnny, I just don't even know where to start. There's so much going on. I feel like it started the minute my feet hit the ground this morning. I was hearing look up on the Twitter feed. I think we're looking at maybe a false flag coming soon. I don't even know. And then while we were doing World Blockchain Roundtable, the announcement came out that FedNow's live. That's been filling up the feeds. And then you had some more information. What's going on and how fast is this going to affect all of us directly?
So I have we'll talk first about FedNow, because I'm sure that's on everybody's minds. Mm-hmm. I think they're actually going to pull a fast one on the public. So what I was saying at first was, FedNow, I said, if it actually is an improvement for the businesses and the people sending and receiving money, if there's no CBDC that's launched. Because all FedNow is a settlement system for instantaneous settlement, which that's required to send a digital currency on. Right now, the system settles once a day at the end of the night or whatever. And then, that's why if you send a check, or somebody deposits a check, it doesn't clear for a couple days because the system's very slow to settle. Okay. If you send Venmo or money through that and then you deposit it, it takes a couple days to hit your account, right? Because that settlement's slow. So FedNow on its face is supposed to make that process instant. So that would actually be an improvement for the American consumer and American small business. However, it's been so hush-hush on the end I'm on. Is nobody even in my industry knows what this is. Now, companies that I put out their equipment are involved with this, supposedly. In the article, it says there's 35 institutions involved. Well, if this was a new way to settle payments and their merchants and stuff are going to get their money faster, don't you think they'd be telling us about this and promoting it as a good thing?
Right.
What they're going to do is just keep the money, hold that float, and then still do the same settlement times that they do now. This way they get to hold the funding for longer, play more games with your money. They may even use it as an excuse to make the money come slower to people. They could even do that and say, because of this new system, the money's coming to you slower now. I mean, they can do anything they want.
So that they would earn the interest, even if it's within 24 hours or a few days. I'm thinking of how banks loan to each other overnight.
Yeah, the repo market's overnight. So they could get involved in that, potentially get involved in that game more. You know what I mean? Now they have all this. So I don't think they're going to let the small business or the consumer benefit from this at all. Originally, I was like, oh, wow, that's a good thing if there's no CB. Now, I've always been real with everybody and said this is the precursor. This is the railway required to run a CBDC on. Okay. I said, but if that's prevented from happening, which supposedly it's in the laws of the U.S. that there can't be a CBDC. However, the Federal Reserve doesn't have to adhere to the rules, laws, and regulations of the United States government. It's an outside entity. That's why people wonder how stuff can happen in the banking system and the payment system. That's not legal. That's not legal. I said, they don't operate under the same laws we operate under. They don't.
Janet Yellen's paid by the IMF.
Yeah.
Her salary is paid by the IMF.
Go chew on that one for a minute, you know? So I don't think they'll let the small business benefit at all from this. Now,
you're right.
I'll be the first to know. I'll report to you guys next week, because if I don't see businesses getting their funding faster and these institutions are the processor and it's going to banks that were also on that list, if it's two institutions that were on that list, I got an email from something that people get in the payments industry. It named 35 financial institutions that are participating in the first rollout. So it's going from, and remember, in credit card payment world, when a credit card's processed, the acquirer talks to the issuer, or the issuer talks to the issuer is the bank that issued the card. The acquirer is connected to the processor. So if both of those are a match and the person doesn't get their money faster, well, what gives then? Then we know, well, obviously they're participating in this. They're getting the money quicker. They're just not dispersing. And I would, if I was a gambling man, I'd be like, the money line on this, that they're not going to give the money faster to the businesses, is like plus 2,000. So that means I'd lay down, I'd say, I'd put up 1,000 to risk 20,000 that this ain't going to happen. That's how confident I am on that.
Betting odds from Johnny.
Because if this was going to benefit the people, they would be talking about it.
That's
trust me. I think it's going to benefit people. You're giving notices. Hey, this is what to expect, because that keeps people from canceling your service. Also, oh, we're going to get this faster funding come. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. You know how much people get tricked with coming soon. Oh, it's going to be here shortly. So I don't think they'll get that at all. Now, next thing I saw today was, second thing they're going to do is a globalist deep state attack against small American business, where I'll put this in layman's terms for you guys. If you guys go to buy something with a credit card, you may have noticed that there's a fee on your receipts. And the fee is, if you pay with a credit card, they'll add an extra charge in there. Now, a lot of people feel this is unfair. The public doesn't like it. They're mad about it. But the point is that business has to pay fees when you pay with a credit card.
Right.
Right. So we always talk about use cash. They were talking about it recently online, where if I pay you $50, Lisa, and you go to the deli and buy meat and use that $50 bill, and then he goes and pays for a cab ride with it. The cab driver goes to the bar that night and uses that money at the bar. The bartender then buys her supply. Once that money circulates around, I think it's 10 times, that $50 is gone because of that 3%, 3%, 3%, 3% that's collected each time the payment's processed. So if you just use cash and it keeps floating around. So I don't have a problem with the paying of the fee. It's because the business has to pay.
Right.
And people say, oh, well, that's not fair. This and I say, well, look.
It's a service, right?
And then I've had people tell me, well, I had a business 20 years ago. We never did that. And I said, yeah, but 20 years ago, were you not getting mostly cash? And they say, yes, I was. You're correct. I say, well, now these businesses get almost all credit card. So if you want to not pay the fee, you come in there with cash and pay. And that's how you avoid the fee. It's a service for you to pay with your credit card. So obviously, I won't name their names, but when you look at the credit card, the logo that's on there, the big company.
It sounds familiar.
Sounds like Issa.
Sounds like Lisa.
Sounds like Lisa. Oh my God, sounds like Lisa, right? They obviously hate this stuff because they don't want to deter credit card payments. So in conjunction with them and other people, they're fining the small businesses now that are doing this, even though it's written into the laws of the U.S. It's actually in Dodd-Frank that you're allowed to do this. And it's in other things that you're allowed to do this as the business. But what they're doing is saying, no, no, no. Here's how you have to do it, and how they've structured it in order to do it and be compliant. You have to change around like your whole business. Like, so you'd have to post, you have to change your prices everywhere. You have to post two prices like a gas station. Now, a lot of businesses, they've paid thousands of dollars for nice menus. They don't have a spot for two prices. Oh, that's all right. Put new stuff in. Put new stuff in. It's an attack on small business.
Yeah.
Because they've made it structurally impossible to do it now. And then businesses have to run their business. This ain't on the forefront of their mind. So now they have to be a brain surgeon with doing this stuff. So there's an attack on that end on small business to fine them big money. And a lot of these fines, I mean, I've seen these fines put people out of business. You get a fine of $100,000 coming from.
Oh my God.
Visa, MasterCard, or I said their name.
Whoops.
Fine of $100,000 coming from those
Lisa.
guys. And
that's my Lisa. Nickname. Yeah.
And and it's like, well, I won't pay. Yeah, you won't pay. They're funding you money. Guess what? They'll just take the money right out of your account, because when you set up any of these accounts, it's written into the terms and conditions that any fine or assessment will be taken from you without your say.
We just got a thing in the mail about was it for our electric? It's for something household. And it was like, if you're on some kind of, it was like because we won't do auto billing or something. But if not, then you're going to have to, I wish I had paid more attention. It was something like you have to use a certain kind of card where they could just grab out of your account. Sure. Not the one where you have to push the payment. And if you don't do that, you're going to be charged an extra $10 a month if you use the kind of card where they can't just pull.
They want to be able to pull an ACH. So basically, with pulling an ACH. Oh, sorry, I got the dog.
It's okay.
UPS.
We love dogs.
He hates UPS.
That's okay.
Hey, go get him. Go get him. Come on.
Sick him, boy.
Go get him.
Don't mess with Johnny's house. Safe all the time.
UPS ain't even here. He's turned around in front of my house, and he's freaking.
He knows. Yes. Don't you?
They want to go pull an ACH, which basically means you. So instead of paying with your debit card or check card, you're putting in your routing and account number, and then you're signing off that they can pull the money, do an electronic funds transfer from you, and suck the money out of your account. I've actually in the past, companies I did business with were like, "Oh, we want the ability to do this," and I said, "No." I said, "I'm taking all my business elsewhere if you have the ability to do that." On their end, now the processors obviously do that with the fees and all that, but not the local company. I said, and then somebody said, "Why do you have such a problem with these people doing that?" And I said, because if these people have the power to do that, they're going to go into people's accounts and take money out, and they're going to get away with a little bit, and they're going to get away with a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Before you know it, they're just going to take money out of people's accounts. Hey, I want to put a pool in at my house. Let me take this much money out of X amount of people's accounts, right? Let me do this. So I'm not sitting in prison because these people wanted to put a pool in at their house. I said, so they want to do business with me. They don't do this. It's
well, and the fact that they get to make up rules that aren't laws, and then they get to slap fines on people that are. This is the totally insane thing to me. So supposedly there's some people, some really nasty people who owe me money. And my attorney was explaining to me about how, well, when we came to America, we didn't want debtors' prisons. And so you can't just because someone owes you, they can't go to jail and whatever. And I was like, Well, the IRS can put them in jail. And he's like, well, that's different. Well, there is just so many different sets of rules for who is involved in the situation. And for some reason, the bad guy always gets the good end of the deal. And it's just really frustrating.
The bad guy gets the good end of the deal. Now, how that three-letter agency you talked about has fooled everybody so much, and people are like, well, that's your constitutional duty or whatever. And I said, like, it's not what America was founded on. People fought a 3% tax on tea, and that started a revolution. And now people are like, no, it's your duty, this and that. Like, you're good.
Pay your share. Yeah.
Yes.
20% for everyone.
Screw home. I'm just going to shut the door.
No, you're good. You're good.
He loves it in this room. He saw UPS wasn't here. He came back in.
Yeah. He's like, knock, knock.
He just opens the door because he can push it open, and then he comes and he'll probably jump up on the bed in a minute.
That's fine. He's welcome on the show anytime.
This dog is such a character. He wraps himself up in a blanket, and to the point where I never seen a dog that goes under blankets like this, where he doesn't need any air. And he's gotten up before and freaked people out that have been over because he's got up and walked. And you don't see him, you just see a sheet walking. Yeah. Somebody thought it was a ghost one time. Like, what the hell's that? I'm like, oh, it's the dog.
Well, if you think about it, he's like a hound dog. So he's his history or whatever, he was trained to like probably go down holes, rabbit holes, or chase badgers, or I don't know.
The other two hounds I have they don't like blankets at all. And he is like, and he gets caught if it's winter time. The one hound I have won't come in. I mean, literally, she'll go out at night, and you got to go get her in the yard and pick her up, and because she won't come in. The dog wants to be outside.
Loves it. Yeah.
This guy goes out, does his business, comes back to the door, and he's jumping on it. He's like, "Let me in! It's freaking cold." And then he runs inside. He runs around for a minute. And he dive bombs under the blankets, and he's like, you could tell he's like shivering. Yeah,
freezing to death.
Like,
that's funny.
He's got it good. They're after the groundhogs. The only animal that's ever scared them is the groundhog.
Oh,
they go after deer. They go after everything. Deer are huge.
That's funny. They would be afraid of a groundhog, but not a deer.
The porcupine. I mean, literally everything else they've encountered, I've seen them get things too, and like they're hunting dogs. They get it. You know?
They rip it apart. We had a giant. Oh, go ahead.
The groundhog goes up on his back like this and puts his paws up.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to do. They both like try to run. They both run up to it and then run away. And they run up.
Like the red panda. That stands up and it does like this when it's scared or whatever. We had a giant raccoon in the garage under what we lovingly call the turd, which is Charlie calls it root beer. I call it Caca Brown. 1980 something Mercedes that Charlie has all in pieces in the garage. And he said he went out there and he thought it was like a broom. He said it was a tail, like this long, big old puffy thing. And he goes, and he looked over and looked down, and he goes, and it just went like this at him. Like, you're bothering me.
You're bothering me.
Poke it with a stick and get it out of there. Tried to get it out. And then we have one of these things. We bought it for my dad for Christmas one time as a like gag gift. But you shoot it and it sprays salt, like to kill flies or whatever. And so he said he was trying to like shoot it with salt. To get it out. And he goes, finally, I annoyed it enough. It just kind of waddled out of the garage, but it was giant, like they're big, like a dog.
They are like we get fox around here. Fox are tiny. Fox are like a little bit bigger than like cats. Fox, you would always think, oh, the fox. Fox are small. Like my dogs are way bigger than the fox.
Yeah.
Raccoons are massive, and they have
he said it was big.
And they're not afraid of people either. They're like, they're gutsy little animals.
Yes. I just don't want them in my garage. They can go be gutsy little animals in the woods.
Get them I keep my garage
Get
shut
out.
most of the time because I don't want
Oh, we
stuff.
do
Yeah.
too. Well, I say that Charlie's constantly like working on the yard and doing whatever, and he likes to have the garage door open and his radio going, and I'm sure the neighbors love us. But with his old fart music going. But I don't know when it would have gotten in or how, or anyway, it was pretty
Right.
scary. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with the world right now, but it feels like things are happening really fast. I know there was a rumor that things would happen somewhere between the 20th and the 23rd, that we would be seeing some really drastic action in our nation. The Marjorie Taylor Greene was showing Hunter's receipts, his tax deductions in Congress today. Was it today or yesterday? He apparently has his extracurricular activities that involve terrible things. Go check it out yourself. And she's holding up pictures and she's like, is this, she's talking to this whistleblower at the IRS, and she's saying, and they're talking about how the DOJ like was stopping them from furthering the investigation. And Hunter's doing like sex acts with this woman, and he something about it transporting people across state lines. It made me think of, that's how they got Al Capone. It wasn't that of what he was doing or selling. It's the fact that he transported over state lines was how they got him. And then is that racketeering? It's like that was the charge of how they ended up getting him. So I'm curious to see, they keep saying, they're going to push it off to no, I can't think of the name of it. Some kind of, formal investigation that needs to be happening, or like, I don't know if that goes to the AG or who, but it is all coming out finally years later. Like all the stuff we've known about is finally coming out. So it'll be interesting to see. I heard that Congress is going to watch The Sound of Freedom on the 25th or 7th. It's scheduled for that. I think that's significant.
That is significant.
Trump watched it last night with Jim Caviezel and
I saw a
Tim
tweet
Ballard.
about a picture about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, as far as FedNow and all this stuff goes, here's the thing that my prediction, we'll see if I'm correct. We'll go back to this episode. I've talked about it before.
Mm-hmm.
The public's not going to realize that they're switching over to a CBDC.
They won't even know what happened. They'll just lose their privacy.
They won't know what happened because what they're going to do, they'll do it within the banking app that you use now. They'll probably keep consolidating the banks, so there's only a few big guys left. And then within that app itself, which, the big guys, a lot of people like because they have a nicer app. The app works better because obviously they have way more money to create an app and also more ability to do things as well. You got to realize they don't let most people do things when it comes to transmitting money and all that. They block it. So where they help certain people or certain companies, they block other companies, which remind me to talk about Litecoin, why I never decided to go ahead with that app that I wanted to have created. And I'll explain why in a minute. But
okay.
What they'll do with the CBDC, they'll just say transfer your money. You have a new account in your banking app. They're going to mail everyone a Visa card.
Yeah.
They'll say load that or a MasterCard or whatever.
Do they even need a card, or will it just be an app on your phone?
Oh no, it'll be attached to a card because you got to realize the card is going to be needed to spend the money. That you got to run it on the Visa.
Everybody will be dinging their phone on the.
So what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, load it into either use the physical card or load it into your digital wallet. So you could use it through Apple Pay and things like that. And transfer your money into this new account that's in your banking app. And for every 10,000 that you transfer, you're going to get 10,500. So if you don't know what the stuff we know, and you're
Mhm.
just a normie that goes to work and you're paying your bills, and all of a sudden your bank tells you, hey, transfer your money into this account, you're going to get credited with more money. Oh, I just got that card in the mail. Oh, cool, I'll do that, and I'll just spend through that. They're going to give me more money to do it. And then, little do you know, you're not going to be able to obviously transfer out of that. They say, oh, you can just pay for things in here and this and that. That's going to be the CBDC. And then when they go to, oh, how come I can't get cash out of this account? Oh, you can get it out of the other account that's in your bank account. You just can't get it out of that one. That's a cashless account. Oh, it's a cashless account. Okay. But keep transferring your money in here because we're going to keep crediting you more. And then eventually what they'll do is they'll penalize people for using the old account. Yeah. They'll like somebody said in the chat before, their bank was charging them a fee. Wait to see the fees your bank charges you in the future for using that old account, right? Mm-hmm. And then people will say, well, I got a $50 maintenance fee on this account. I got a $100 a month maintenance fee on this account. The cashless account's free, and they're crediting me with more money. Why don't I just use that? And then people that seem like the smart one out of their friends will show them how to do it. And they'll be like the all-knowing one. And they'll be like, you know, people always follow that certain so-and-so. Jimmy said that there's a new account I could be using. And Jimmy says I get more money. And wow, it worked. Jimmy's right. Now all of a sudden, Jimmy told you one thing, you follow Jimmy, you follow Jimmy into a freaking fire. You know what I mean? Oh, don't worry, that's not a fire. You're not burned. Ha, that hurts, Jimmy. Don't worry about those burns. You know, it only hurt a bit kind of thing. I mean,
oh my God.
The amount of following that people do is insane. They
don't want to think for themselves. They want to be told what to do. And then they want to blame somebody else when it bites them in the ass, you know?
We're witnessing firsthand, I mean, the real downfall of the U.S. I mean, it's being destroyed, the moral values, the American family, the money, just people's, and everything in general is just being, and they're just, if you see this shit they put out on like TikTok and stuff that people watch and stuff that they just make a norm now on these terms, I mean, it's absolutely disgusting. I'm actually fortunate. I grew up in like the 1990s, which was like, they say that was the pinnacle of like Western society. It's like, you know, I always hope for the best, and it's why I push for Bitcoin and Litecoin and things like that. It's not that I want to get rid of cash either. It's just that I see we're going into a digital world. We need a solution that works for us. Right. And it ain't going to be gold and silver coins. I hate to break it to anybody. That ain't going to work in the digital world in which we live. And even people that say, oh, no, it just pay with gold coins or whatever, or silver coins. The public's too dumbed down for that. They need it.
Right.
Well, how much do I get? What is the system show?
And Johnny, there's so many good fakes out there now. I was talking to Public on the phone, and my mom was telling me to watch out because we had bought a vintage silver set off of an estate sale. And so I was calling Public because he used to trade silver, and so he has some. And I was like, hey, will you look and see if you have this pattern, whatever? And then I was like talking to my mom, and I was like, maybe I'll get some online. She goes, be really careful because there's a bunch of fake silver that looks really good from China, and it's not real silver, and it doesn't have the purity. And Public was saying the same thing. He said they even have coins that are so good that like the coin collector guys can weigh it and fit them in the little plastic things and all that, and they still like, you have to really, really be careful because you can get screwed. So for the layman to be like, oh, sure, we just all deal with silver now. And even Texas, you know, there's 25 states now that have made gold and or silver or both the legal tender. And Texas is creating its own digitally gold and silver backed digital currency outside the United States currency. Texas currency. And so they already like, yep, we're going to do gold and silver. Well, it's not going to fly to use coins. They already know.
We're going to move through a Visa card and then the money is going to move out of the repository, not physically, but it's going to move around from account to account. And then, but at least it's some gold and silver backing, which is at least good. That's at least, like I always said, I don't mind the Visa system. I mean, it works good. It's convenient. If we had sound money attached to it, that's just a payment network. So like I always said, if you can run Litecoin through Visa or other things through Visa, it's a damn good payment network. I mean, it works. It's integrated everywhere. It's fast. It's reliable. So it's the problem is now they're too in the pocket of the banking industrial complex who runs the show, and that's the issue. And that'll lead me into my next thing. So talk real quick how the Patriot Act affected a small business that I was dealing with, and they contacted me, and so I looked at their payment processing, and I said, wow, I could, you're really getting hosed. I can save you a lot of money every month in your fees. Okay, we want to do it. You came highly recommended, yada, yada, yada. So I gave them the application, waiting for them to fill it out. I followed up with them. Hey, where's that application? They sent it back to me. So they texted me and said, hey, we sent it. I texted them back, cool. I reviewed it. I just need the owner's social security number and date of birth. So they called me later that day, and they were saying they don't want to give that to me. And I said, okay. I said, I'm sorry that I can't do the account. And I said, it's not me that wants this. Your government wants this.
Right.
You realize they're looking at you as a criminal. And they said, this is ridiculous. Whenever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I'm involved with Bitcoin, and to buy $10 worth of Bitcoin, they collect your information. And this is all newer stuff. I said, this is because of the anti-money laundering compliance, which stems out of the Patriot Act. And they said, lady said, what's the Patriot Act? I said, well, it's something, this is what they're keeping us safe from 9/11. This came because, well, I'm not a terrorist. I said, the government looks at you, me, and all us American citizens as terrorists, unfortunately.
Yep.
And she goes, how does this help? I said, it doesn't. I said, you're seeing this firsthand. This doesn't help. And the lady, she goes, I'm calling my lawyer to see if I have to give this information. I said, look, call your lawyer. I said, I respect if you don't want to give the information, but that is what's required. I always use it as a way to red pill people and tell them about how your government hates your guts, and how this doesn't keep anybody safe.
Right. That's a great point.
This just affects the hardworking small businesses. Wait a second, I'm not comfortable giving this information, and
isn't that a violation of our constitutional rights of like unreasonable search and seizure, our privacy?
Sure, but the Patriot Act supersedes that. That's why they put the Patriot Act in, null and void that.
Then the Patriot Act is unconstitutional.
Sure, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it's unconstitutional. The Patriot Act, what I always said was when they rolled it out, that's why I was against it. And people argued with me. And I was a kid at the time. And I said, look, they're not going to just use this for terrorists. Mm-hmm. I said, how the hell are they? I said, you mean to tell me if you're like a drug dealer, they're not going to go after you? And they said, oh, that's different. Okay. I said, what about if they suspect you for this? People were thinking about it. So, well, I guess you're right. And I said, what's to stop them from down the line? This is back in 2001. What's to stop them down the line from going after each and every one of us because they suspect us of stuff? And people said, oh, well, that'll never happen. I said, you watch what happens when you give them this power. And sure enough, every bank you go into, this is due to the rules, regulations, and regulatory requirements of the USA Patriot Act. We're required to gather certain information for account opening procedures. Now, knowing all this stuff that I know, again, I'm involved with crypto and Litecoin and all this. People say, well, why isn't Litecoin or crypto, like, why don't we see more adoption? Well, it's been blocked. It's been blocked.
Yeah, remember the on-ramps and off-ramps are closed.
Everything's blocked. There could be an app that's right in these systems where you walk up and just pay do a peer-to-peer transaction, and the system can validate it right there. They could set it where my idea was with Litecoin, do it where under a certain amount, you don't have to wait for a confirmation. No one's double spending on the Litecoin blockchain anyways. So if you have transactions under $1,000, I mean, no one's going to double spend because it costs so much money to try to take over the network. And besides, there's double spends all the time on Visa, MasterCard banking transactions that people accept willingly all day long. So I said you could do no confirmations, zero comp, they call them, under certain amounts. If you need to do a higher amount, maybe wait for that one confirmation right at the point of sale. And it always got blocked. Whenever we tried to present this, nope, we want to prove it, we want to prove it, we want to prove it. So people tried to say to me, well, let's move forward with developing an app. And I said, I'm not putting money into something that I know is going to be taken down in the future. As much as I want this, I said, this takes the point of crypto away from what I'm looking to do. You know, they're going to get the bad guys involved. You know it. So I always looked at it as you have to treat Litecoin and crypto as cash. And you could treat it as a payment network or cash. When you treat it as cash, guess what? You have to validate it yourself that payment came in. But guess what? The bad guys have no say. So you took the bad guys out of the equation. And it shows how much sissies and how much wimps the American public is, that for everybody, that's too hard. Oh, it's too hard. It's too inconvenient. I had somebody tell me they want the system to count the cash for them. I said, no, the system doesn't count the cash for you.
What?
Yeah. It's too hard for people to count the cash. It's too hard for them to check the app to see if the Litecoin came in. It's too hard. I need
just dumbed everybody down.
Check mark. And that's how dumbed down and lazy we've gotten as the public. So I'm sorry I'm a little bitter, but I work with the masses. I work with normies. I live in a normie area. And it's really scary what's going to happen to these people when they want to eat meat and they can't eat meat. You know what I mean? And then they didn't want to get in Bitcoin because the price was volatile. Well, guess what? Now you're in your CBDC and you get your 4 ounces of meat every month. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? And Bill Gates is in charge of your diet now. He's a real killer of health.
Yeah. Well, we did have a great conversation over at the Very Dow channel. I did an interview with Reggie Middleton and Nick from ICANN and my friend Greg Lang, who's a former lawyer, and William Billingsley, who's a fellow volunteer on the Very Dow with me, when that SEC versus Ripple case came down. And we talked about, that was a big win because it really separated, and we won't get into it now. Go watch that over there on the Very Dow YouTube channel. But there was a big win for the individuals for programmatic tokens. Tokens are not securities. So we'll end it with that. Johnny, you have a great night. Good. And keep up the fight. Good. Keep that rage going, because that keeps us all strong. I think it's really encouraging for us to hear you speak so strongly and share this education with everybody. So thank you. And we will see you guys all tomorrow on Happy Hour. I've got some new stuff up on the eBay store, so check that out. There's a link in the description. And we'll see you guys next time here on The New Normal.
Later, guys.
What happens when 90% of the media is controlled or owned by 6 corporations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? Fact becomes fiction? Fiction becomes fact? When does news become propaganda?